All right, Monster Monday. Let's talk about It Follows, a film I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I have not seen this since the theater. Something I want to say really quick, though, is I know that this film has its haters, all films do. But this is one of those films where, as a horror fan, as a film fan, I really want to say and point out that there is a difference between a film you disliked and a bad movie. And when people tell me this is a shitty movie, I have to be that dick, that person I don't like being, and try to act like I know better and be like, you're wrong. Like, straight out. This is a well-made film. Like it or not. And I really don't think that enough people can seem to differentiate between dislike and a poorly made film. They are different. And yes, you can argue that no film is good or bad. Art is subjective. What is a masterpiece to me may be the biggest piece of shit to you, and vice versa, and whatnot. Yes. But there's a certain standard a film can hit to where you're like, okay, I didn't care for this movie. It didn't work for me. It was overhyped. Maybe, I expected too much, whatever. But when someone's just like, oh, It Follows is terrible. It's a fucking piece of shit. It's horribly made. It's so stupid, this and that. That frustrates me. Because no, it isn't. And you can fucking argue with me about it all you want. But I'm sorry, this is not a bad movie, period. It frustrates me when people say that. All right, I don't want to talk about that all that much, but like I say to people when they're going and dating, I say, lower your expectations, not your standards, okay? Do the same with film. Go into a movie and, want a good film, for sure, but don't expect a masterpiece every time or expect something that's impossible to achieve. You're always going to be let down. Anyway, let's move on. Now, this movie stars Micah Monroe, I think that's how you say her name, from The Guest, which is an excellent movie, and Olivia Luccarde, I think is how you say her name, from the most recent season of Channel Zero, Butcher's Block, which is a great show. If you're not watching it, you should be. If you ain't, and she had my eye this whole movie. I have a thing for glasses. I have a thing for the dorky friend or whatever. And while Mika, whatever, is a beautiful woman, my eyes were off to the side of her onto her friend. Now, the way that I look at this movie is like a modern day, retelling or a hybrid or a new version of the Lover's Lane, the Hook story from the 50s that they used to tell kids to, thwart them from having premarital sex. Basically, what I take from this film is this is showing you the innocence of childhood and the repercussions of making adult decisions and how they can follow you forever, which is terrifying. Now, and this is where I'm like, okay, this is why I think the movie is good, and I genuinely don't understand how horror fans don't like this movie. Like, if you're a horror fan, I don't. And I respect your opinion if you don't like the movie, always. There's plenty of films that I dislike that everyone's like, you're fucking crazy. Like Rosemary's Baby. I can't stand the movie. But I would never, ever not say that it's not well made or that it's not a masterpiece. Or a classic, sorry. It is a classic, and it is well made. I just don't like it. There's a fucking difference. Anyway. I just get frustrated, I guess. But the style of this movie is so fucking good and refreshing. And the music is wonderful. Like those things alone, the acting in the movie is really good. The concept of the film is original. How often do you get to say that? It's a sexually transmitted demon. I mean, how many movies are there out there? Is there probably one, and someone would be like, well, I'm sure there probably is. But it's not something that's been done 6,000 times, like a found footage film or a haunted house or a vampire. And I'm not knocking any of those subgenres at all. I'm just saying it's nice to have something fresh. So for those reasons alone, anyway. Now, let's get into the film. The opening of this movie is very tense. I just like when films start with a bang and we don't know what's going on, and it just kind of gives us a little bit of a taste of what's to come. Like, oh shit, what's this girl running from? And it just starts this like process in your head of like, what is it and what's going on? Especially if you go into this movie completely blind and you were to be watching it and you watch that opening scene, you'd be like, what the hell is she looking for? And why is she not telling her dad? And why is she driving off and putting her back to the water so that nothing can come up behind her? And you know, then it just cuts to her dead and her legs broken. And I really like those kinds of moments in movies. It reminds me of No Country for Old Men. This is a spoiler for that movie if you haven't seen it, so I don't know, fast forward a couple seconds. But when Josh Brolin's character in the movie dies, that is such a great moment for me, because there's so many people who, because of how films usually play out, we get a big explanation, the main character dies, we're gonna see it on film, right? It was never a question of whether or not he was gonna survive that. Like, Anton Chigurh is death. Like, he is death incarnate. He is coming, and you ain't getting out of it. Same thing with this movie. Like, their death is inevitable. The result is always the same. So you don't even need to see it to know what's going to happen. And I love when films play like that. Now, this isn't the main character like it is in No Country, but we don't even see it because it's not necessary. And we don't realize that until later on in the movie. But when you do, you're like, oh, like if you ever did. But that's how I take it anyway. And I love that kind of stuff. And now we get the main character here, Micah's character, and she is dating this guy, and she ends up having sex with him, and they've been dating for a little while. Like, she went on a date with him that night. He didn't see her again until at least the next night, and she has been talking to him, and her sister knows about him, and she's been out with him at least once or twice before. I don't know how long it's been going, but he's been running from this thing the entire time as he's been dating her. That's interesting. I mean, how he's able to, I mean, once he leaves the date, does he just like drive out as far as he can and then like circle around and then come back and like pick her up the next night? Like, why her? That's where, like, I'm not going to argue with the logic of a 21-year-old guy. Like, he's not bright. I get that, but why pass it on to an innocent, sweet girl like this? She doesn't deserve it. Not that anybody does, but why not go get a hooker? Now, I hate to just kill off a hooker and be like, you're nothing, you don't deserve anything, but why pick this girl who you need to get to be like willing to have sex with you, A, and then she is supposed to pass it on in order to continue to keep the cycle up and up so that it pushes further and further away from you. You want to go after somebody who's promiscuous. So the hooker, you're not even condemning her to death immediately. She's probably going to have 5 other Johns that night. Now, granted, those Johns will probably go home and have sex with their wives or whatever, and it'll spread like wildfire. But if you've already committed to passing it on, you've already committed to murdering somebody anyway. And if you're only going to pass it on to one person, he instructs her to go have sex with someone else. He doesn't care who she passes it on to. So why should he care who he passes it on to? So these are those moments in the film where you just got to take it like this is the girl that he wanted. But why he would court a girl and try to bed her like willingly, I'm not saying he should go rape somebody, but he should probably go to a bar, get some girl drunk, try it, whatever. The fact that he does this is, it just seems like, you know, illogic, but it's still a great scene. I mean, it's not taking away from the movie at all. It's just, I have to question those things. Oh, I love the long takes in this movie. I mean, that's part of the style. You know, you get these long tracking shots, that spinning shot when it shows them like going in to talk to who the hell this guy is, and they show the girl like walking closer and closer. Another thing that I love that this movie does is instead of having a specific monster, it's able to shapeshift. And what that brings into the movie is just an uncertainty in everything. It can look like her best friend. It can look like any random person on the street, anybody. So it turns background pedestrians into, you know, possible threats. And that is a scary thought, because as you're watching the movie, you don't even know if you're seeing it half the time. That girl walking towards them when they're in, you know, the admissions office looking for this guy's name. You don't know if that was ever even it. It could have been just a random student on the campus. You don't know. And I love that background characters who in monster movies like this or slasher movies, you know to look out for Michael Myers. You know to look out for a werewolf. You know to look out for certain characters, and they're the threat. But with a movie like this, it could be anybody. Everyone becomes a threat. Even seemingly random people in the background, all of a sudden become part of the movie somehow. And that's just great additional, you know, unease within the film. So, yeah, yet again, I just don't understand how people don't like this movie. But whatever, I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. And just the idea, I mean, obviously this is playing off of STDs and the fact that once you have one, that no matter what you do, no matter how far you run this way, that way, it's coming for you. Like death is imminent. This is just stalking, unrelenting death. It follows you always. You can't get away from it. You can buy some time, but it's coming. It never stops. It will never be, you know, it will never go away. And God, it's just absolutely terrifying. You want to talk about the anti-date movie? You know how many, I'd love to think about that. How many guys took a girl out to a horror movie and they're used to like, yeah, man, take her out. She'll jump all over you. Then after she'll be scared and she'll need you to spend the night. Not after this movie. This is like the anti-date movie, man. Don't take a chick to this one. She'll watch this and be like, I ain't fucking you. Are you kidding me? I'm never having sex again. So I was thinking that when I saw this in theaters, I was sitting there like looking around in the theater like no one in this theater is getting laid tonight. That does backfire. When the creature, the monster, whatever you want to call it, it's Monster Monday, so we'll call it a monster, is stalking and it's close, the music is very reminiscent of Halloween 2 when Jamie's being chased through the corridors of the hospital. Which, as I've said before, the music is amazing. Olivia's character is clamshell. It looks like a, you know, birth control container that's like a e-reader and a flashlight. I don't know. Is that something? I've never seen anything like that in my life. Is that made for the movie, or is that an actual piece of tech that I'm completely unaware of? I just thought it was very, very interesting. And walking should take a long time, right? So the ideal situation here is to then become a world traveler. As soon as you got this, all right, fine, time to grab a plane ticket, fly across the fucking, you know, the ocean, go over to Japan or Russia or Germany or wherever, you know, and sleep with a random dude here and there. Every country you fly to, just like you fly over here, sleep with someone in Germany, then fly over here and sleep with someone. That sounds like the greatest life ever for me. Like, I would make the best out of this. I'd be like, all right, well, then this thing's coming out for me. All right, I'm going to go sleep with a girl in Japan, and then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to try to sleep with a girl over in Sweden, and then I'll be down in Australia. And that's how you do it. You just fly across and you sleep with people all across the freaking world. And then that thing will just be like, oh my God, I don't know where to go. How the hell am I supposed to get to Japan? I got to walk across the water? They just keep in the same town. Like, they don't go like within, like outside of like a 20-mile radius. I mean, really? Like, this thing only walks. It's slow. It fucking take off. Go on a road trip. Get the hell out of there. Sleep with people on the road. Sounds like my 20s. So yeah. I love that it can change its appearance so fast and so often. I mean, that scene on the beach when it's coming at her, it becomes her friend, and then it becomes this kid, and it becomes this tall guy, and it's just like, what the fuck? There's so many people. And then that's when she just commits to it. Like, this thing has scared her enough that she's willing to fuck her friend and pass it on to buy her a little time. And the one friend who's into her gets all jealous and whatnot. And it's like, she's proving she loves you and not this guy, that she cares more about you. Like, this guy is her patsy. This guy is her, you know, little lab rat. She's going to have sex with him, and he seems to be promiscuous. He's checking out her friend's ass. He's, you know, he's all about all these women. They show him at a table talking to a couple girls after he's had sex with her. So this is the perfect guy to have sex with. He's going to go off and he's going to try to sleep with a few girls before this. But the fact that he has sex with her speaks a lot to his character, and probably why I'm not all that upset when he ends up dying, because there's two scenarios here. Either she's not crazy and he's an idiot and he just had sex with a girl that's going to kill him. It's like a fast-acting HIV or something. Like, or he just took advantage of a crazy person in a time where she is vulnerable and thinks that sex is the only way she can live. So he's either a total moron, or he's taking advantage of a chick who is mentally incapable of her own, you know, keeping control of her own actions, and is a piece of shit. So I can't really feel sorry for either person. But yeah, and then we get to see that we're led to believe she fucks 3 guys on a boat. Like, she strips down to her panties and her bra, and it looks like she's going to swim out and have sex with them. We never get any confirmation of whether or not she did or did not do this. But it hunts her down pretty quick after. And you would think those guys would go in separate directions once the day was over. Maybe they all stayed together and they were all 3 killed together. We don't know. If I missed that they were killed, or it says that she definitely had sex with them in the movie, I missed it, but I don't think that they did. But the guilt of that, having sex with someone, and then the guilt of their death, and possibly the deaths of anyone who they end up having sex with, and passing it up and up and up, it would be hard to live with it even if you could pass it on. So as much as I joke about flying across the world and condemning so many people to death and having sex with you want to have sex with hookers too if you're going to do it, because they're going to have sex with like 20 Johns that night, and so on and so forth. You're going to be like the plague flying around. You're going to kill off like half the population. You're going to be like the freaking, you know, outbreak monkey. Be like the Stand. And then we get to see that the creature in this like fucks and dry humps, I guess, because she doesn't really have anything in her that I can see, but she like dry humps these people to death. That's what we see. Man, the one gets fucking fucked so hard it breaks her leg back. Damn, that thing is rough. And The whole like plugging everything around in a pool and pushing it in, it's a neat idea, but because of how much water there is, it wouldn't work. So I'm glad that they show that it wouldn't work. Although it's a pretty dumb idea because it is immediately showed how stupid it is. Because the the guy says like the thing's slow, but it isn't dumb. Like it immediately starts picking things up and throwing it in. Like you think that was gonna work on me? That shit ain't gonna work on me. But you know, it jumps in the water, it comes after her, and the friend tries to shoot at it. Can't see it, tries to shoot at it, and it fucking hits Olivia's character in the background, and he doesn't even blink. Like, because his only thought in the world in that moment is saving her. He is in love with her. He doesn't give a fuck otherwise. He shot his friend. He doesn't care. He literally doesn't even fucking blink. He doesn't give a shit that he just shot this girl in the background. So I thought that was a great moment because A, it's very realistic, and B, it shows how invested he is in this moment. And right after that happens, the fact that they full on see it manifest, the fact that they throw a sheet over it and he goes and he shoots it in the head, and then he goes and he shoots it in the head in the pool again and the blood's spraying. He then goes and has sex with this girl right thereafter. He is this. How many people do you know that are willing to die to have sex with you? Now that is serious shit right there. So yeah, I love that we see how crazy. I mean, and I feel like she's kind of taking advantage of him, but we see earlier in the movie she does care about him. So I don't know how really to take that, but it's a tough one. We never do see the thing following again for sure, so it is possible he killed it, but I think that's just for optimistic people. But it is left up in the air. Like, you can be the optimist and be like, they found love, and this is the way they were brought together, and as fucked up as it is, they got each other. This is how they are. This is like the really fucked up version of How I Met Your Mother. But yeah, I mean, if you're an optimist and you want a happy ending, you could say that they killed it in the pool. We don't see it again. But he is smart because he has sex with her and then he instantly goes out and starts looking for hookers. So he gets it. He knows what's up. Probably shouldn't do it in your town, though. Come on, man. But they are kids, so maybe they just, I don't know, steal the money. It's your life. And I think that's it. I probably skipped over a thing here or there like I always do, but you get the general idea of how I feel about it. Anyway, fans, I know this movie has a ton of people who love it, so I know there's plenty who are going to be with me, but the haters hate on me all you want. This movie's awesome. All right, guys.